Is this fight actually happening? Oh yeah. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. So, next time on Death Battle, after Goku Black vs Reverse-Flash, we have Macho Man from WWE versus the Kool-Aid Man from Kool-Aid. This is a fight that we've actually known about for a little while now. It was revealed in the RTX panel way back when. That was the same time where they revealed that Iron Man was going to be Batman's opponent in Batman vs. Iron Man. So yeah, I did want to wait a little bit before I made this prediction because I knew there were still a lot of people that didn't know about this. You know, they didn't know this was the case. This was coming as episode 150. But now it is the next episode of Death Battle, so I can finally make this video. And I am actually pretty hyped for this. This is a fight that has been talked about on the Death Battle cast, I believe multiple times. So this fight has a lot of history with Death Battle. It makes a lot of sense that it's in this season of Death Battle. And like I said, I'm really hyped for this one. If, you know, Chuck versus Segata or even Smokey Bear versus McGruff the Crime Dog says anything, I think we're in for a real treat. And I don't even really know these characters that well, but still, I'm really excited. But before we start jumping into this fight, I feel like I need to clarify some things regarding who these characters actually are and what Death Battle will likely be analyzing. A lot of people seem to already be familiar with what the Kool-Aid Man can do. He's picked up a lot of traits and abilities over the course of his millions of years, it feels like. He's been on commercials, and also his extra material like the Marvel comic series that he was in. Yes, that's a real thing. However, for those of you guys that don't know, we're not just looking at Macho Man as his real life counterpart, you know, Randy Savage in real life. We're also looking at his extra material because WWE has a lot of canon crossovers to look at. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people don't really know about that. There are a lot of YouTube comments I see where it's like, oh yeah, Kool-Aid Man wins because of his extra material, but I feel like that kind of implies that not a lot of people know about Macho Man's extra material. So I feel like we gotta dive deeper into both of these characters before we start jumping to conclusions. And I also want to say that I am well aware that Death Battle might just call this fight a draw. I could definitely see them doing that, and if that's the case, then there's really no point in doing a prediction. But I also don't want to go in there with the assumption that they're doing that, because again, then there's really no point in making this video. So I'm just gonna go with who I think would win and explain who I think would actually win if they were going to choose a winner, which ultimately I do think they will do. I don't think they're going to call it a draw, but I do know that they could call it a draw in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I'm just going to assume that they're going to give a winner because, you know, I want to predict this fight, you know? So let's start off with Kool-Aid Man because, like I said, I feel like more people know what he's actually capable of. And yes, this is mainly due to the food theory that was made by MatPat, and while you can take the whole power grid scaling stuff with a grain of salt, it does go to show that Kool-Aid Man has a lot of impressive abilities. Of course, based on the commercials, we know that he can inhabit everyday items or objects and create interdimensional portals. He can break through walls, of course, and can dent cars. When he drinks neon, he becomes a more vicious, dangerous, uncontrollable version of himself, and we know that he's likely made of crystal or some material similar to crystal as opposed to just everyday glass. And then he's got some more obscure abilities like limited telekinesis and turning the planet into himself, or turning the planet into a pitcher of Kool-Aid or something. I don't really know what happened in there. I think it only happened once, but no, yeah, that totally happened. Now, when it comes to Kool-Aid Man in the comics, it is important to note that we don't actually see him crossing over with Marvel characters. The comic is published by Marvel, and Kool-Aid Man does reference some of the Marvel characters like once or twice in the comics, but even so, there is still no reliable scaling that we could attribute to Kool-Aid Man because there's just no proof of it. But even without that kind of scaling, Kool-Aid Man still does some impressive things in the comics. Of course, we see him break through walls normally on Earth, but in the comics, we see him breaking through walls of spaceships. And he can also just survive in space on his own, unaided, because why not, you know? He also has some fighting experience. He fights little yellow creatures called Thirsties on a pretty regular basis. We know we can also shoot rainbows and even project snow. We see him do that in the commercials. And he also has a time machine, a jetpack, a space shuttle, and even more. And when it comes to his speed, he's actually pretty impressive in that regard, as him shooting out rainbows could potentially be a light speed attack, and we see him dodging lasers in space while using his jetpack. So that kind of attack speed and reaction speed is pretty good for the Kool-Aid Man if you ask me. But now it's time to go over Macho Man. So of course Macho Man is a wrestler, which means that he does have a lot of real world special moves, such as the atomic drop, the gut wrench suplex, the diving crossbody, the snapmare, the scoop slam, etc, etc. Way too many moves for me to go over all in one video, but still he's got a lot of them, just so you guys know that. And of course in his other material, like his video games, games, movies, and of course, commercials and comics, just like the Kool-Aid Man, he's picked up a lot of special and even magical abilities, which I do expect Death Battle to use based on how they treated Chuck Norris in Chuck vs. Segata. I just think to make it more interesting, they're going to give him all the stuff that he has in these canon crossovers. So what can he do there? Well, for one, Macho Man possesses some summoning abilities. He can summon lightning bolts along with other tools or weapons to aid him in battle. He can also use his shape-shifting abilities to transform into a magical dragon creature, and he carries a magical scepter on him ever since becoming the Macho King. Maybe they'll include that, I'm not 100% sure, but he also sometimes carries some other more standard weapons on him, like chains or crowbars, etc, stuff that's more standard. And he can also increase his abilities or enhance his physical abilities after snapping into a Slim Jim. Macho Man also has a lot of impressive physical feats. For example, he once took a bite out of a Slim Jim so hard that it started to cause natural disasters like tornadoes. He also once rode lightning, and he can smash into the ground so hard that it can create a small crater. However, the big stuff that Macho Man gets is through the scaling with canon crossovers. This honestly applies to a lot of the WWE cast, but yeah, the scaling through crossovers is honestly just absurd. For example, we know that Macho Man can easily trade blows with Hulk Hogan, who once fought the Incredible Hulk in a canon crossover. Now, Hulk most definitely wasn't at his maximum potential when this was going on, he wasn't at his strongest, but still, even just normal Savage Hulk or whatever Hulk you want to say that this Hulk was, that still means that Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and a lot of the WWE cast can scale to some ridiculous speed and strength. Macho Man himself even once met Deadpool and smashed his head into the ground, and we know how fast some Marvel Street tiers can get to. Macho Man should also somewhat scale to The Undertaker and all of his comic feats, who in the comics became so powerful that he could bring upon universal destruction, and he likely also scales to the CEO of WWE, who once defeated God alongside his son in a wrestling match. So that's really all I want to go over for these characters, and while this fight is pretty weird all things considered, it's honestly not that complicated as long as you're aware of everything that you're working with. For example, Kool-Aid Man does appear to possess more versatility and is just more unpredictable in a general sense, but Macho Man's physical capabilities and skills appear to be far superior to Kool-Aid Man's. Now, having a disadvantage in strength, speed, and durability can be overcome as long as you're not fully outclassed and if you have the right abilities to compensate. If you have reliable counters for your opponent's advantages, then you still have a chance of winning. And yeah, it's hard to say exactly what Death Battle is going to include, if they're going to pick and choose stuff or if they're going to include everything, but if they are going to include everything, which I think they will, then Kool-Aid Man really has to rely on his special abilities. There's just way more evidence that Macho Man can reach higher heights or more ridiculous heights than Kool-Aid Man can. Unfortunately though, we really have no proof of Kool-Aid Man getting anywhere close to Macho Man's physical stats, except for maybe speed. I think that's a little debatable, but even then I'd still want to say that Macho Man has a solid advantage thanks to his Marvel scaling. Remember, Macho Man does actually get some limited Marvel scaling, unlike Kool-Aid Man, despite him being a Marvel character from Marvel Comics, But yeah, that on its own is going to make it difficult for Kool-Aid Man to be able to take advantage of his abilities, but even then, Kool-Aid Man's abilities don't really provide the best of counters in the first place. Yes, Kool-Aid Man can project various forms of energy, but they've never shown destructive capability up to Macho Man's level. Yes, Kool-Aid Man can inhabit everyday items and even become the planet supposedly, but Macho Man can still destroy far more than whatever Kool-Aid Man is shown to be able to turn into, planet included. Even if you want to say that Kool-Aid Man is planet level because of this, it still wouldn't be able to overcome Macho Man's durability. And this is before taking into account Macho Man's own special abilities like summoning and shapeshifting. The only abilities that I could see challenging Macho Man in this fight are stuff like Kool-Aid Man's telekinesis, his portal creation, his time machine, but even then he hasn't really used any of those abilities too offensively, so I find it hard to believe that Death Battle would go with any one of those abilities and use them to say that Kool-Aid Man will win the fight more times than not, in spite of Macho Man's greater physical stats. I just find that a little hard to believe, especially since they still wouldn't provide perfect methods of getting around Macho Man's toughness. That's still going to be a problem for Kool-Aid Man. So again, this fight is pretty weird. Of course, it's a weird fight, but it's honestly as simple as Kool-Aid Man doesn't have much that can kill Macho Man, and he doesn't have much that can stop Macho Man from killing him. I'm really excited for the fight. I don't know that much about the characters in general. I don't know everything about the characters, I guess I should say. So I'm really looking forward to learning more funny stuff about them. But just on paper, it really feels like this is a fight that's going to rely more on physical stats for the win. So you can disagree if you want, that's perfectly fine. But because of that, I am going to go with Macho Man for the win, assuming that they are actually going to pick a winner. But anyway, guys, that is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too, that would be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am super hyped for this fight, and I hope you guys are really excited for it too. But yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.